Well, this is quite the surprise information to read about. You see, whether you believe any of what you hear sometimes in wrestling, sports entertainment, regarding WWE, ROH, Impact, New Japan, despite what you may or may not believe that's being reported, when something like this comes up, and it comes from a very, how do you put it, sort of reliable source, especially somebody that used to be on the creative team of WWE, whether it was Raw, SmackDown, or both, and they say something like this, pretty much it is kind of startling, a bit surprising, and maybe to some not so surprising. Let me explain. You see, according to RingsideNews.com, Wade Keller recently had Kevin X, a former member of WWE Creative, as his guest. And Kevin X did not hold anything back. And one of the things that Kevin X brought up was the fact that Vince McMahon, that's right, Vincent Kennedy McMahon, VKM himself, at the time he was working as part of creative in WWE, he said that he, along with others, would notice that Vince would suffer from memory lapse or memory loss. Well, considering the guy's been in the ring several times and has taken several, if not tons of headshots via chairs, championship belts, you name it, sledgehammers, whatever, that's probably to be expected. Topple that with the fact that he's the CEO and he's got to overlook a lot of what happens, in the wrestling business, or in the WWE, on both Raw, SmackDown, and the pay-per-views. It may not be too surprising to hear about this. But here's what Kevin X brought up. Vince McMahon, back when he was working as part of creative, that being Kevin X, would bring up a few times where Vince would come to Raw, or basically in a meeting for Raw or SmackDown, and he would ask, basically flat out, now he didn't specifically say any names, but he would basically say that Vince would flat out ask, what did we do with this guy last week? What did we do? What was the angle? Or something like that. In fact, one of the more startling, if more telling ways of looking at this is one time they were in a meeting discussing an upcoming Brock Lesnar match. And while they were discussing what the finish of the match could be, Vince McMahon asked, literally, according to Kevin X, what is Brock Lesnar's finisher again? Literally, according to Kevin X, when he was working for creative at that time, asked what Brock Lesnar's finisher was. That being Vince McMahon. And someone had to remind him what it was, and then it's like the light bulb went on inside Vince's head. He's like, oh yeah, my hip didn't really like that move that much, because this was at a time, I think recently, a couple years ago, where Brock was sort of in a short feud. Well, not totally a short feud, but just a feud with Triple H and the McMahon family. So Brock ended up doing an angle, if we remember, on Raw, where he F5 Vince McMahon. Excuse me. So not only did Vince forget or have to be reminded what Brock Lesnar's move was, the moment he's reminded, that's when it dawns on him, oh yeah, I just recently took that move in the ring. Sorry about that. Like I said, he had to be reminded what it was, because suddenly that turned the light bulb on, and he remembered exactly, and basically brought up a memory, or brought back up a memory, the memory, or the recent memory of him just recently taking the move. So for Vince, for someone like Kevin, for someone from creative, for someone who used to be part of creative and work closely with Vince and work closely on creative, to come out and say that's kind of telling. Now, some might say that maybe this Kevin guy is only saying it because he has sour grapes. Maybe, maybe not, but we've all been speculating why WWE hasn't been doing as well as it should be. And perhaps the reason being is because the guy that's approving things has to be reminded of what they did the week before. He has to be reminded, they did this, they did that. He has to be reminded. Because it seems that they could do something like, let's say, with Seth Rollins and Dolph Ziggler, and he has to be reminded the following week that the reason maybe Dolph has the championship is because Dolph won and they're doing an angle with him and Rollins and McIntyre. So yeah, very, like I said, very, very telling, if you will, when you look at it from that perspective. The fact that Vince McMahon possibly is suffering from memory loss or memory lapses. Well, basically he forgets about something that just happened not that long ago, and he has to be reminded. Now, some would say that you couple that, like I mentioned earlier, with the fact that he's taken some headshots with chairs, sledgehammers, belts, and that he also has to oversee most of WWE, Raw, SmackDown, what goes on at the Stamford, Connecticut offices, stuff like that, as well as the pay-per-views and things. But also the fact that he's also trying to overlook these other projects he's doing, like, with the resurgence of the XFL. He wants to bring that back under another brand name that he's creating. So, all that toppled, so you add all that together, and it would kind of make sense as to why Vince McMahon would suffer from memory loss. Now, some might say, well, that doesn't make sense if Vince is determined to push Roman Reigns. It doesn't make sense if he wants to push Roman Reigns? Well, maybe it does. Maybe Vince has been constantly reminded week after week, month after month, that nobody likes Roman Reigns and this whole thing's been a failure, but he seems to forget about what people tell him, and he still constantly wants to go with Roman because all he's thinking about is what he's already planned ahead. Like, he'll forget all the other stuff people might say about how fans are reacting to Roman and all that. And maybe he'll listen to that and, put that in, kind of keep that in mind. But if this whole memory lapse deal is kind of true even now, it would make sense why he constantly wants to push someone like Roman, because he forgets what other people have told him about the reaction Roman gets. It's every week or every night, and it's not positive, and how everybody else that has worked within the company, that's been part of the company, that are legends, became legends in the company have all said that the Roman Reigns thing as it is not working, and you need to do something. You either need to take him out of the title picture, the main event picture, or let him be a silent assassin-like badass that goes in there, kicks ass, and walks and just leaves. So, maybe the memory lapse does attribute to that as well. Like maybe he forgets what people tell him about what's going on with Roman, or maybe he shuts it away, and when he shuts away the negativity that people have about Roman, he also shuts away some other stuff. We don't know. But the point is to hear about this, to hear this, and to see that, basically Vince McMahon, the CEO, the chairman of the company, is suffering this, has been suffering this even at the time that this guy was part of creative. It's not a good sign. And it basically builds more evidence. It builds more evidence to the fact that Hunter Hearst Helmsley, Paul Levesque, has to step in as soon as possible. They need Hunter to step in. And this is not because, he'll make it better. No, it needs to happen. This needs to occur because, Vince continues to if Vince continues to have these memory lapses, which we don't know if he's continually having them or he's taking some kind of medication to help it or what, we don't know. But if he continues to have these kind of memory lapses, then perhaps it's time for him to be stepping down. Perhaps it's time for people, I'm guessing they have to do what they did with Matt Hardy. They're going to have to force a freaking intervention on Vince and basically get Vince to realize, look, you're suffering from this. This is not good. You got too much on your mind. You need to step down. Let Paul and Stephanie and Shane focus on the WWE portion of the business. You focus on the XFL if you want to do that. And just along with that, just kind of bide your time, relax, and enjoy life. So, to me, hopefully some kind of intervention is brought up. Hopefully. Because if not, then I don't know, then honestly, I think what Vince once said, in a sense, is true. Once he goes, the business goes with him. So the company goes with him. So we'll have to wait and see, but hopefully something happens before then, because without a shadow of a doubt, this report's going to get out. That this interview, that what this Kevin X guy said is going to get out. And it's going to definitely build up more of that supported evidence of the fact that Vince needs to step down and let Triple H, let Stephanie, let Shane step in and basically try to save what they can for this company and help make this business, make this company what it once was. Make it a company that wrestlers, men and women, fans of all ages, want to be a part of. But let me know what you guys think down below. OTRSCentral, Dalyxman, I'd like to hear from you guys. Let me know what you all think down below. Comment if you like, and I'll talk to y'all later.